Creating value is doing something that's actually going to be valuable to people with no thought of how it's going to benefit you. Building a personal brand, I think, is very trendy, and it's something that people look at and look and think is cool. It is a lot more work, and it's more of a long-term play. And when people start trying to emulate people like that, they realize.
In today's episode, I'm going to talk to Chris M. Walker, the founder of Legiit. Legiit is the #1 job market platform for search engine optimization professionals and other digital marketers. Chris is going to share with us how he built an extremely strong community to attract very high quality and very hardworking freelancers and connect them with business owners. Not only that, but Chris will share with us how he built his personal brand and what keeps him successful in the online marketing game.
Influencers tend to become influencers just to become influencers. So just to create pictures and videos of themselves and just to make themselves the brand. I don't think that's really what the term should mean, because influencer means a person that has influence. And I think that's, if you're going to market that way, that's the distinction you should look at when who you decide to work with.
So not only are you going to learn how to build a community, but also how to stay resilient as an entrepreneur. So let's not wait any further and let's get into the episode. Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Awesome. Today, I'm actually very excited that you joined the show because I know you have a very successful platform called Legiit. And before we dive into that, can you tell us your story? How did you get to where you are today?
Sure. Prior to this, I worked as a tech support for a real estate development company, just level 1, my password, change my password, that kind of stuff. And I hated it. To be honest, I wasn't very good at it. I mean, I could do the work, but I wasn't very friendly at it, and it wasn't making the kind of money I wanted to make, and I wasn't living the way I wanted to live. And I had a bunch of credit card debt. And so I started looking into ways to get out of credit card debt to make some more money. And I stumbled on a blog about affiliate marketing. And that's kind of what got me started on that. Started doing that for, a year or two. And I did okay, but not enough to change, to get out of the situation I was in. And then I bought a course on SEO called Source Phoenix. And that was what got me into doing client SEO. Because it was so expensive, I had to make it work. It was like $1,000 course, which was a lot of money at the time. So I spent, I spent time learning that, and I started taking on SEO clients while I still had my day job. I would send cold emails and take phone calls in the bathroom, so I didn't get in trouble for doing this while I was at work. And that did okay for me. And then in 2015, on a whim, I put a service on a freelance marketplace that is no longer in business, but I put a service there and I started getting a few sales. And that's when things really started to take off, because shortly after that, an influencer mentioned my services and they took off. And pretty soon I was the number one seller on that platform. But then, as years went by, that site had a lot of issues. It was crashing and getting hacked and things like that. So I just started selling SEO services through my own website. And I had built friendships with some of the freelancers on that platform. And they were like, can we start selling through your site too? And that's when the light bulb went off. I was like, well, maybe I have an opportunity here. So I had met a customer through that site who was also a developer, and we decided to start a marketplace of our own, which is Legiit. And that was just going to be a side project, an extra product for my SEO business. But literally in the first month, it was already the #1 revenue stream. And now we've been in business for 6 years, and we've changed direction a lot and added a lot of stuff. And that's how I got from where I was to where I am.
I think I would like to kind of circle back and then kind of reflect how much work you had to put in at the beginning. Sure. First of all, you had your day job. You were still learning about affiliate marketing, and you took SEO clients on the side. Was that a really quick switch, or was that you did affiliate marketing first and then you started to venture out to client work?
Yeah, I guess I did glaze over that. So affiliate I started doing, and I was doing well. I had a couple sites that were doing well. I didn't even realize what I was doing was called SEO. I thought I was just doing affiliate marketing, and for whatever reason, my sites would show up in Google search. And I was using a tool, a software called Magic Submitter to make them rank, which was a link building software. Well, it turns out that was a bad idea, and then I think it was in October 2013, the Penguin 2.0 update made my sites go away. So, and then I stopped making any money that I was already making. So I had to figure out, but at that point I had already gotten hooked on this make money online thing. So I was like, I got to find another way. Mm-hmm. And right about that time is when the Source Phoenix course came out. And I was like, well, I never thought about selling it SEO to businesses. So let me try that. And that's kind of that. So I was doing all of that that at the same time. Fortunately, I had a job. My job was in IT. So I'm not saying that I recommend you do this, but I was able to work on it a lot while I was at work rather than doing my job. Again, don't take that as advice. I don't want to get anyone fired, but yeah, that was an advantage. If I had a job in like a retail store or something, it would have been even harder.
Yes, of course. I would like to point out that you were buying an expensive course at the time with the money that you were still kind of gathering because you were paying off a
I
debt.
used PayPal
And
credit to pay for that
going
course,
back,
actually. I used
sorry?
PayPal credit to pay for that course, actually.
Okay. All right. With that, I would like to ask you this question. So there are courses coming out every single day, probably every hour, every new
Sure.
course. And it's promising so many things, right? Like, oh, with this course, you will get to live this type of lifestyle that the influencers
Yeah.
say. You have gone through this journey and you have ended up in a very successful state. But do you have any advice for someone who is still at the stage like, oh, I want to buy all these courses, hoping to have a better
Sure.
life after
I get
that?
why that's addicting. I still buy courses from time to time. The real key is to look past the marketing and the Lambos and the big houses and all that shit. Pardon my language. I'm sorry.
Of course.
And try to find the actionable stuff and actually take action on it. Buying courses can be an addiction and it can be something that doesn't lead to anything, but I've never bought one that I didn't get something from. So the key is to find the actual information in it and try to look past the fluff. And unfortunately, there are going to be some that are just garbage too. I've certainly bought some that were not very good, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have a good like formula for figuring out which ones to buy and which ones to not. The fact that one was so expensive for me at the time actually helped because it like gave me the pressure of now I have to like justify this investment. But at the same time, I don't know that that's a good approach to it. Like, I don't think I wouldn't want someone to put more money than they have into something. And I've actually had people that tried to buy things from me that I thought would put them in a bad spot. And like, I didn't work with them for that same reason. So hopefully that answered your question.
That's of course. I think it's a great answer because it don't say that you're not saying like, oh, you shouldn't buy any course in your life, and you also don't say like, oh, buy every single course. It's like you're giving a very objective point of view, and also hopefully for the listeners when you hear this is that there are good and bad courses out there, and like you have to make your own judgment and take action from the course to actually make it work.
Yeah, the
And
take action part is.
with that being said,
the
like
real
what
difference.
courses do you have?
Oh God, over the years, I've bought more than I care to even think about. It's been quite a while since I have now, but I've probably spent I've definitely spent tens of thousands of dollars on them over the years. I couldn't even begin to tell you what the best ones are now. It's like I said, it can be an addiction. So
Yeah, how do you compare this to? I mean, spending tens of thousands of dollars on a course versus going to university that is also tens of thousands of dollars plus it's 4+ years, right? Like, how can you compare those two?
well, I did that too.
Like universities versus.
Yeah, I mean, I did that too. I have associates and a bachelor's and a master's degree that cost me way more money than all the courses I ever bought, and they did me literally no good. I shouldn't say literally. They did financially. They never did me any good. But I also think there's some value in it too. I think that it helps shape you as a person. Whether that's worth 4 years and $100,000 is for you to decide. But I know it's very popular among entrepreneurs to say that don't go to college; it's a waste of time. And there's some value, some truth to that. Like if you want to do business, it's better to just go do business. But at the same time, I don't want to completely write off college, although I do think it's gotten too expensive and the ROI is too low. If I offered a product that I can't guarantee any result and I could charge you hundreds of thousands of dollars for it and you can't get out of that debt, even with a bankruptcy, I would probably get in trouble with the FTC, but for some reason it's perfectly fine for college. So a lot of downside to college, but I don't want to completely write it off because there is value in the connections and in the experience and the way it shapes you as a person.
Yeah, 100%. I stand by that as well. But mentioning the ROI is just very clear. Like logically, sometimes it just makes sense to go with a very actionable course and then take that action into some sort of business, like what you did with SEO and then creating an agency. Which then also led to your marketplace, which is is it a SaaS product? Do you call it a SaaS product or is it just a website?
So I call it a platform because
How do you classify that? Legit?
I'm sorry. I think there's like a delay, so I'm sorry if I interrupt you. But I call it a platform because we have a marketplace, but we also have software and other things built into it because we have marketplaces are getting to be a like kind of a dime a dozen type of thing is what we realized. And I didn't want to be just another marketplace. I wanted to think big and create something that didn't exist. So we took, after being in business for 4-ish years, we started building some software into it that would incorporate the data and the information that we'd gotten over those years and help people figure out what they could do to improve their business. So they could connect their business to the dashboard that we call it, and then get information on what they need to do, and then have it use AI to find the people to do it. So that's kind of the approach that we took with that, because I didn't want to be just another marketplace. I wanted to provide some value, as much as I hate that expression, provide some value for people.
Hi, if you listen to this far, thank you so much for listening. And if you enjoyed the show, please leave me a review on either Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or my YouTube channel. If you have any feedback for the show, please let me know on the Aspiring CMO Podcast social media pages on Facebook and Instagram, or send me an email on my website. Now let's get back to the episode. Why do you hate that expression? I think it makes sense.
I think it gets abused. I think people say I'm trying to add value when really what they're trying to do is sell something. So I think it's not the expression itself. I think the way it's often used that I dislike.
Well, how do you differentiate between adding value to something versus like, I'm just going to sell
the intention behind it? If you are doing something specifically to make sales, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that you should be transparent with the people that you're, doing that for, but also to yourself. A lot of people think that they're adding value when really they're just trying to make money. And I don't know why they can't just be comfortable with the fact that they're trying to make money. So I think it's the intention that makes the difference. So it's, kind of semantics, I guess.
I like that clarification. Also, now let's think about, how do you come up with your product? I think for entrepreneurs is like, they probably have millions of creative ideas, and yours is definitely one of them. How did you come up with this platform?
Well, first of all, it was in the beginning, it was just, like I said, it was just something to be extra money. But the more I did it, the more I realized that there's two sides to a marketplace. You have the freelancer side and the customer side. Some people call those the supply and demand, but I find that like dehumanizing. So I refer to them as customers and freelancers. Yes. So I wanted, on the freelancer side, I wanted to have something that gave people the same opportunity that freelancing gave me, because that's really what turned everything around for me, was doing freelancing and offering freelance services. And I was able to build a brand and a business off of that. And I wanted to create an environment where people could do that. Sites like, well, I won't mention their names, but like the $5 sites, they're really controlling on what you can do and how you can communicate and how you can take people off their platform and stuff like that. And I didn't want that. Now, some degree, we still have to manage that, but I wanted them to have that freedom to build a business. And then on the customer side, I realized after a couple of years in, that I didn't want to appeal to just everyone, like certain $5 sites do. I wanted to work with businesses and help businesses grow. So we focused most of the platform on growing and helping businesses get bigger and think like that. So that was a mistake. It took us a few years to figure it out, but we don't want to be just another marketplace where you can get a video of a guy who looks like Jesus holding up a sign with whatever you say. That's literally one of their biggest services on the $5 site. So it's like, there's nothing wrong with that. There's obviously a market for it, but that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to work with businesses. So that's that. And so that's kind of how the evolution of why it's different. We get asked a lot, how is this different than Fiverr? And that triggers me every time, because I don't see us as in being in the same business at all. The only similarity is that it's has a two-way marketplace. So
yeah, I was definitely going to ask you that, because the first time I saw Legiit, and I saw you introducing at the SEO spring training, and I liked how the platform looks. It's very user friendly, and I like how niche it is. So I think the first time I heard you talk about it was specifically SEOs connecting to clients, which is, I'm like, this is great, because filtering through SEO experts on, as you say, the $5 websites is just so tricky. And then, some people just buy random links from those websites, and they have their sites crashed, and it just ruins the trustworthiness of those websites as well.
It wasn't intended to be SEO, but since I had a big following in SEO when we started, it's kind of, it still is our dominant category, but we've expanded into anything else businesses would need to. But I get why people make that comparison, and because it's easy to look at it and think that, but we've tried to differentiate ourselves in the ways that I already mentioned, but also visually too, and just make it look a little bit different. So even though it's always going to be somewhat similar.
Yeah.
So, I know, and thank you for not asking that, because I've explained that so many times that and whatever. So
Which also, what was my next question? When you first started your platform, I understand there might be some problem with having people on board. So either the client or the freelancers, right? Like, how did you overcome that problem to have quality people be on the platform to connect with businesses?
if you mean how to get like, I guess what you're saying is how do we make sure the freelancers are good freelancers? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Like the freelancers are good freelancers, the businesses are legit and will pay. And I guess like as a platform, you have to kind of take care of
Yeah.
that,
So
right?
for the freelancers, we have, and it took us a while to figure out the system, but we have a 55-point checklist that any service has gone through before anybody ever sees it. So, and that includes not just the quality of the work, but like the presentation of it too. We don't allow like misspellings or typos or false promises and things like that. That's one way that we make sure that the freelance side is talented. The other way that we do that is a lot of sites will give people sales just for signing up and because they're new and try to help them. We don't necessarily do that. We make them prove to us that they're going to do a good job and put in the effort to build a business around it. And then once they do, then we'll start sending traffic to them because, we're not a publicly traded company. We don't have unlimited traffic like a Fiverr or an Upwork does. So I only want the people that are going to do a good job to be the ones that succeed. And we've built our algorithms and our marketing around that. And like, I also don't like the mentality that I've listed a service, so therefore I'm entitled to sales. A question I get all the time from freelancers is how do I make more sales? I was like, offer something that people want to buy. If you can't just list a commodity service that anybody can do and expect to make money, if you want that, then go. There are sites that'll do that for you, but I want people that are going to take care of our customers. And then as far as the businesses, I mean, it's not like a lot of, there's not like a lot of work as far as like guaranteeing who's good and who's not in that way. We do run into a certain amount of fraud because the world can be a shitty place sometimes, but but for the most part, that hasn't been too much of a problem. The only problem there is just getting more of them, and attracting them as needed. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The other conundrum to that is you have to grow those at kind of the same rate, because if you have too many freelancers and not enough customers, then the ones that are good end up getting overwhelmed and the rest of them get mad because they're not getting any sales. But then, if there's too many the other way around, it becomes the same problem. There's not enough people to do the other side of it. So that was harder than I expected it to be, because you have to you're basically running two businesses in a sense.
Exactly. So this is actually the reason why I asked the question, because I expected for a marketplace when they start that there must be some sort of imbalance between the number of businesses wanting freelancers versus the number of freelancers wanting to have jobs. But it seems like you already sorted
I wouldn't
out.
go that far.
What was your marketing?
Well, I wouldn't
No?
say we've sorted that out. No, I've identified the problem, but I mean, it's still always a challenge. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I mean, it's never like an equal thing, right? It is, you can never expect it to be equally like 50
Yeah,
50.
it's much easier to attract
So
freelancers
just,
than it is businesses too.
do you run, so that's as an aspiring CMO
Mhm.
podcast, right? Like we want to mention some of the marketing strategies that go behind your business. And could you share with us, like, how do you attract both the freelancers? How do you attract the clients so that they can use the
Sure.
platform?
I mean,
Yes.
attracting freelancers is pretty easy now that we have somewhat of a reputation. It's, you can make standard, and I don't mean this in any just disrespectful way to them, but you can make your standard make money online type content, and that will attract people. That's definitely the easier side of the equation. But the thing and then we do the standard marketing. We spend quite a bit on Facebook and Google Ads and SEO. But the thing that I think has led us to be successful where other marketplaces have not been is the community that we built around it. We have we have a Facebook group and then just general social media, but people, they want to be part of the brand. They want to share their success stories. They want to interact with me. I hate this expression too, but my personal brand has been very important to that. But building a sense of people working together, we have little fun things that we do. Like there's every day somewhere on the site, there's an icon of a slice of pizza. And if you click on that slice of pizza, then you get $6 in credit. And whenever people find that, they go and share it, and it's turned into a competition. And that all became because I used to do a bunch of live streams for the group and for the community. And one of the jokes I would always put when I was promoting it would be and there will be free pizza. And then in parentheses is I'm lying, there won't be any free pizza. So we built that into the platform, and just making people I don't like how ClickFunnels calls theirs a culture. I don't agree with it being like a cult, but I agree with it being a culture that people want to be a part of. And like people will buy our merchandise and like take pictures of it and be proud to show it. And that is the reason that I think we succeeded where other marketplaces have failed, is because we remember the people are important. And just to be clear, the community itself is not means to an end. If you do it just to make money off of them, it won't get people to be as committed to it. You have to genuinely create a sense of community. One of the things I did before this was I worked in politics as like a field operative, and that was how I had success there too, was getting people together around a topic that they all cared about. And that's been the biggest marketing success I think we've had there. On top of I could talk about the strategic stuff, the Facebook ads, the YouTube videos and all that. But I think that's really the thing that separates it from other businesses. And it's what whenever I want to grow, that's where I go back to and figure out how we can help them, have them do it. And then they end up becoming your own marketing team, with that you don't have to pay.
Oh yeah. So like once you have built a strong community of freelancers in Legiit, like those freelancers will tell their other freelancer friends to join the platform and join kind of like this free pizza, but no free pizza
Right.
type of fun culture.
Yeah, freelancers and customers.
Yeah. What about like?
I'm sorry, freelancers and customers, because customers will bring in their own people and things like that, and they'll get dedicated to where they don't want to use another site just because they're so attached to it.
Oh yeah, yeah. 100%. Like I can imagine if you build freelancers that like the platform and people who, well, they need to do the job. That's why they are freelancers. But on top of it, like they are active on the platform. So there's always like good, I guess, supply of work that performs well, so that it attracts other business owners to be on the platform. So I completely understand what what you did, and it's awesome. Also, like the most long-term way of looking at marketing, because in order to build that type of culture within people, that takes the longest time, I feel like.
It does. And there's not like a roadmap it's not like a set of steps like SEO or ads or something that you can follow. You kind of have to let it happen organically. Like you give them a place and a thing to build it around, and then kind of see the little things that connect with people and just go in on that. During the early part of the pandemic, for example, I was doing daily live streams in our group, and I still get the rewards from that. Both financially and in how it helped the business, but also in the ways that I connected with a lot of those people, and a lot of them have gone on to have a lot of success, and some of them have sent me some really, really kind messages about how impactful it was on them. So those were just, that's kind of, I guess what I'm saying is that there's no roadmap for community marketing like that. And maybe there is, I don't know. I've never seen one, but it's not a science like setting up a successful ad campaign where you track the ROI and the ROAS and all those other things. It's more abstract, I guess would be the way to put it.
Yes. Abstract, long-term, and you need like someone with a strong vision to be in the center of that group to actually keep that going. And I see that it's becoming more and more important for almost every company. Like every company wants a content creator who can stand up like, yeah, this is what we do and this is how we help, and also maintain the fans, maintain the customers to love the brand. And it's definitely something growing. If you do launch a course on that, well, I'm more than happy to promote it. It seems like you have already kind of figured this out in practice. You just need to write it down, maybe.
It's a good idea, actually. I never considered that, but there probably would be some interest in that.
Yes. What about attracting business owners? They are like always busy. For them to figure out something brand new, like going from a LinkedIn job ad to actually post their job offering on Legiit. But I see that as a potential problem too for marketers.
So you mean attracting people to buy through the platform? Is that what you mean by attracting business owners? Okay.
Yeah.
That's definitely been harder than attracting freelancers. The first barrier we found that we had to overcome is, how is this different than Fiverr? So that's why I mentioned that earlier. I underestimated how, and I hope this doesn't come off the wrong way, but how knowledgeable people are and how much they want to decide what to buy on their own. One thing we found is they want to be told what to buy and just do it, rather than figure it out on themselves. That's not all of them, but that's a common recurring thing. So making it easy to help people find what they want, and one has been a big challenge. One complaint that I guess you call it a complaint, but is there's so much stuff there, I don't know what to buy. Like I call it the Netflix problem, because like you'll go on Netflix and there's so many different options, you end up don't not doing anything because you don't know what to choose from. So that's one of the ways we've gone on about I don't know, recruiting is not really the right word, but recruiting new customers is to be as helpful as possible rather than just be the Walmart of marketplaces like Fiverr is, in my opinion. Is we have like customer support that's 24/7. We have the best support in the industry. I say that confidently, that will help people. And then we've got training and blogs and content and things like that. So, and then as far as literally just getting them to know about it is just the standard marketing stuff, right? Your Facebook and Google ads and SEO and content and stuff like this. That's one of the reasons I do these sorts of things. But again, that has been a bigger challenge than attracting freelancers, because a freelancer, I can just do again, not to be disrespectful to them, but here's how you can make $1,000 a month selling your service on that kind of content is easy to make. Explaining to a business owner why they need SEO or marketing or something and why they should use a platform to do it and why they should buy this particular service on the platform. There's a lot of steps and a lot of educating that you have to do. So that's kind of the challenge, and that's how we've addressed it, is just being as helpful as possible and providing as much, again, providing as much value as possible to people and like that. But that's definitely the harder part, is getting people to come spend, especially when there's already options that exist.
100%. Let's look into the back end of your marketing then. Do you run two separate teams, one for kind of outbound, like people to use the platform, to spend on the platform, and also do you run like separate teams to attract freelancers, or is that just one marketing team?
Well, at this point, we don't put really any effort into attracting freelancers, other than just general brand awareness, because once you get to the point where you're well known enough as a marketplace, freelancers will come to you. Having said that, no, we don't really separate that. Most of our marketing focus at this point is on, I don't want to say just on attracting customers, but on providing value to people, and the customer side of it. So building out things. So no, we don't have separate teams for that. For the most part, I'm still the head of of marketing in general. And then we have people that market specific tools. Like we have one, we sell on-site advertising. So like you can promote your service, email blast, that sort of thing. We have someone who's in charge of that. So I guess in that sense we do. And she also runs the outbound sales portion of it. So I guess we do have that, but we don't really have a marketing plan to attract freelancers at this point, other than just existing. So we get way more freelancers than we need, frankly. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. For your you mentioned Facebook ads, Google ads, and SEO a lot throughout your answers. And I would like to ask, like, which channel has been the most successful for you? What are your insights on all these three channels for your business?
SEO is hard to quantify how helpful it is, because you can't track it as well as you can with paid ads. But we get a lot of traffic from SEO, a lot of branded searches, but a lot of like search traffic too. That's probably been, I'm probably biased because that's what I know, like that's what I'm good at. So that's been very big for us. Google ads, not so much. We have that there because I think we should, but haven't been as effective with that as possible. And we have a really, really talented agency that runs our Facebook ads, and that's been very, very good for us. And retargeting works really well too. So of the three, I would probably say SEO, Facebook, and then when I say Facebook, I also mean Instagram, Facebook and Instagram. And and then Google ads, not as much, because I don't know. It's interestingly enough, like since SEO is one of our biggest products, like SEO doesn't get good traffic from search, as weird as that sounds. So Google ads have not been as lucrative, and at least maybe we just don't do a good job with them. I don't know, but I would say that of the three, that would be number 3.
Amazing. Awesome. Yeah. And now, how has it been your life as a conference speaker and entrepreneur overall? Do you enjoy it?
For years, I thought that conferences were nonsense and that people were using them as an excuse to go on a vacation, which to some extent I still think they do. But I got the one that I met you at, which was last year in April, was the first one I'd been to as a speaker or as just a person, an attendee. And Terry, invited me to that. And I was like, okay, maybe there's some opportunity for that. So I went and did that, and that was nice. And then I spoke at another one in November from a group called OMG, and that was really nice. And then just like 2-3 weeks ago, it was at SEO at the Beach, and that was really well. And it changed my opinion on them, to be perfectly honest. I found that the connections you make are really nice, not just from a business standpoint, but just like getting to know people is really nice. It also builds that community. Like people, for whatever reason, respond to you. There's people I've talked to for years, or like been Facebook friends with for years, that I never really like connected with, and then you see them in person for 10 minutes, and it like makes a huge difference. So that has been a change that I was wrong about, to be honest. I thought conferences were nonsense and just like a money grab, but there's a lot of value to them and I really enjoy them. And we're actually going to be hosting one of our own later this year in September. And then as far as the rest of it, I mean, I don't like this expression either, but my personal brand has been very instrumental in growing Legiit in my other business as well. Because people buy from people like to get to know people. And then one of the ways we can differentiate ourselves from the other sites is that they can connect, I don't want to say directly with me because I can't answer everyone, but I have a lot of interaction with both customers and freelancers. I've interviewed them on my like YouTube channel and things like that, both sides of it. And just my personal brand has been big to that too. And you can tell that I don't really feel comfortable saying personal brand, but it is what it is. Like it's been helpful, but it's also been really nice. Like I said before, I've gotten some really, really kind things people have like, and I don't even like not comfortable sharing them because some of them are very private to those people, but really kind things about how much of an impact it's had on people. So I don't do it for that reason, because I think if you do something specifically to help people, then you're not really doing it to help people. You're doing it to feel good about helping people. But I'd be lying if I said that stuff doesn't mean a lot to me. And, it's very, very nice to me. So personal brand has been a big help to it as well.
Awesome. I thank you so much for sharing. I will ask you a question about words that you don't like. It seems very interesting throughout this conversation. But also I want to mention, like summarize overall what I heard is that you've been investing in long-term promotion or marketing strategies, which is building a personal brand and building a community, which I think most people want to achieve, but they don't recognize how much time it takes to achieve both. Like, as you mentioned, like Legiit is not a company that was built like a year ago, right? Like you have been building this for years and years. And I just want to like throughout this conversation highlight that it goes like years and years of work to be at where you are today.
Yeah, both on the company side and the personal brand side. Like building a personal brand, I think is very like trendy, and it's something that people look at and look and think is cool. But somebody that this is going to make a lot of people laugh, but somebody that I think is a good example of how hard it is Paris Hilton. Is she puts out literally hundreds and hundreds of pieces of content a week, and like but she's built a huge empire off of that. And like people look at her as kind of a dumbass, but she's actually quite brilliant and she puts in a lot of work. And when people start trying to emulate people like that, they realize that it's a lot harder than it is and takes a lot longer to find success. So you're right. It is a lot more work and it's more of a long-term play. You have to do the right way.
Yeah. Did you plan to build a personal brand, or is this something inevitable that just comes with you building a business?
I absolutely did not. No. The way it started was I created a Facebook group for my other brand, Superstar SEO. And the only reason I created the group was so I owned the URL, so like nobody else could get it. Like that was, and then on that other marketplace that I was working on that I told you about, I started in my delivery messages just saying, hey, join my Facebook group too. And then I would like share stuff that was interesting to me. And then it just kind of took off from there. So no, it was completely an accident, to be honest. I wish I was that brilliant, but it was completely by accident.
I see. Also, one question I've been thinking about as a marketer personally, like for you having a platform which is a product which is quite untangible. It's not something I can touch. It's not a shoe. It's not a t-shirt. So marketing that it's always like a big question for me for B2B businesses, SaaS companies and your platform is, do you use any kind of like product placement for influencers? So like you pay an influencer like to talk about Legiit. Is that something that has a good ROI, or is that
we have a little bit here and there. Influencers that charge for those kinds of things tend to have an exaggerated sense of their value. So they want a lot more than it's worth. I do think there's value to that if you can get in front of the right people, because like my freelance career took off when I got mentioned by a particular influencer in the SEO space years ago. So there's definitely value to that, but seeking it out tends to go poorly, at least in my experience. Maybe I'm just not good at it. I don't know. But I think it's easier once you build a relationship with an influencer rather than just going to, hey, can you talk about our product in our video? Well, and we have done that, and it hasn't really led to that much of an ROI because maybe maybe it's because it's inauthentic if you're just paying someone as like a sponsored, mention or whatever. But maybe it's just, I don't know. Maybe I just haven't cracked the code on how to find the right people. But I find that they want more money than they could possibly ever generate for you.
That's great. And it's something you cannot predict, right? Like if you go to an influencer and say, hey, I pay you, I don't know, $1,000 for this piece of content, but you don't know if that $1,000 is going to come back in like a year or is it a month or like you don't know,
Yeah.
right?
I also think there's a difference between an influencer as we think of an influencer and then someone that has influence. So what I mean by that is like, I remember it was like 2-3 years ago, Elon Musk made a tweet about the app called Signal, which is kind of like WhatsApp. And it drove so many people to the platform that it crashed it. I was like, see, that's actual influence that he has. Influencers tend to become influencers just to become influencers. So just to create pictures and videos of themselves and just to make themselves the brand. I don't think that's really what the term should mean, because influencer means a person that has influence. And I think that's, if you're going to market that way, that's the distinction you should look at when who you decide to work with. Now, I haven't had any success in cracking the code on how to find who is in what category, but I think that's gotten lost in as influencer has become a career of it all of its own.
I totally understand like what you as a business owner have concerns about, and I'm as a consumer, like I'm also just scrolling through these like Instagram reels, and I see these like really funny people, and all of a sudden out of nowhere they promote something, and as a marketer, I'm always thinking like, is this gonna work?
Right.
Is this working? I don't know. I'm definitely not buying because I'm not in the mood right now. But again, like it's.
I was just gonna say, I don't
always
think I've
thought
ever
about
been on like TikTok or Instagram and said, "Hey, look, this person is using this type of I don't know, whatever product." And bought something right then. So I don't know. I think it's more of a branding play than it is a direct sales ROI. So
Yeah. All right, let's get to the words that you don't like. I found it so funny each time, like throughout this conversation, like, oh, I don't like this term, but I'm gonna use this. So one is personal branding, second is giving value. What is the other terms you don't like to use?
Off the top of my head, those are the two that stick out the most in our industry. And I think I'll just address them both. Adding value, I think, like I mentioned that a little bit, has been abused to the point that it's a way that people convince themselves they're not trying to sell somebody something, because for whatever reason in our society, we view selling things as bad. If you are creating a piece of content or starting a conversation with the goal of getting that person to give you money for or something else, then you're not creating value, you're selling. And people convince themselves that they're creating value when they're not. Creating value is doing something that's actually going to be valuable to people with no thought of how it's going to benefit you. At least that's my definition of it. Maybe that's not the textbook definition, but I think that term has gotten abused and used in a way that it is not authentic. And it makes me feel like I don't want to be like that. So whenever I say that, I feel like I'm going to be one of those people. And then personal brand, I don't really hate it. I don't have a problem with it in general. I just feel kind of cringy when I refer to myself as a brand, because I don't know. I just think of myself as a guy who just gets up and works and then goes and does other things. But I hate thinking of myself as a brand. I don't know. It just comes off very cringy to me when I refer to myself that way. Like, but I even like have drawn a line in my head on who the brand is and who I am. Like there's Chris and then there's Chris M. Walker. So like Chris M. Walker being the brand. So like, I don't know. I just find that kind of for lack of a better term, a kind of douchey thing to say. So I don't know. It always rubbed me the wrong way. But the add value one, it bothers me more because I think it's just been abused, and it doesn't. Ironically, it no longer has value because people have used it to the point that it's not what it is anymore. So, it's funny that you noticed that, because I never noticed that I have those little quirks like that I can't stand. But you're right, I do. I do that with our staff too. Like I don't like when they refer to the people on our site as buyers and sellers, because I just don't think that that's as reflective of what they do. That's why I insist that we call them freelancers and customers and things like that. And I guess I also mentioned that people that build marketplaces tend to refer to them as supply and demand. I don't like that either, because that's very cold and doesn't take into the account that these are human beings that you're referring to. You're just looking at them as numbers. So I guess I don't know why I have those quirks, but I guess words matter. And using words the way that they are effective matters, and using them in an appropriate way matters, I guess, is why that bothers me.
I actually wanted to point out, thank you, because ever since I've been, mingling in this industry too, sometimes I see that people from other countries are considered kind of less, and they would explicitly say cheap
Yeah.
because of the place they live in. And although I don't feel it's
It's not.
fair, like I'm just a one person. Like I don't know what to
Mhm.
do. Just taking notes and then kind of separating the people who talk this way. And in my head, I'm like, okay, you're on this side, you're on my bench, like on the
Yeah.
bench. But yeah, it's definitely dehumanizing. And I just love that. I think you did a post about it on Facebook
Mhm.
as well. Like when you say that people from the Philippines or from other countries, they're just
Yeah.
people. So
Yeah, that makes me so mad when
making
people refer
referring
to
to them.
like a VA from the Philippines like it's a piece of software. It's like that's a human being
Yeah.
that you have, and yeah, that's a big problem in our industry. I don't know if it's intentional discrimination or if it's just because you don't see the person, you just think of them as like a piece of software. But yeah, that really bothers me. So I'm glad that I appreciate you mentioning that.
Yeah. And it's almost like a beautiful way to like conclude this interview as well. I'm really thankful that you have joined the show, and I wish I talked to you more in
Yeah,
Arizona when I was there a year ago. But I think I will see you in other
yeah.
conferences
Well, hopefully you
too,
can come to ours.
because we go to a lot of conferences. Yeah. Is it the Legit conference, or can you talk about a little bit about the
Yeah, I
conference?
don't have a lot
Because
of
I haven't heard of
information
it.
because we just started planning it, but it's going to be in September this
Okay.
year in Myrtle Beach, which is where I live, which is also like a fun like vacation spot for those that like to make a vacation out of a conference. We haven't 100% decided on a name, but it's probably just going to be like Legit Live, and I don't have a lot of information beyond that just yet. We literally just started planning it last week, so.
Okay. I mean, that's awesome. Like taking a conference, like making a conference like a whole different show for sure. I know that second time organizing
Oh yeah,
a SEO
yeah. I'm
conference.
very fortunate in
So
that
it's a different show, different skill
I'm
set.
I'm very fortunate that I have a COO who is very, very good at these sorts of things. Because if it was up to me, I would be a great idea that I had for years that I never did. So, in fact, I've had people ask me for years to have one, and I was like, the planning, no, I'm all right. And then after I talked to Terry, from SEO Spring Training, I was like, that sounds like a lot of work. So, but after the one I did a couple weeks ago, I was like, I think it's time to do this, and I mentioned it, and she has just run with it. So I'm very lucky in that way.
But definitely always get yourself a good COO who can
Hmm.
run and then make things happen.
Absolutely.
And I call it like whipping people, because like you need to like follow up 5 times.
Yeah.
I know that. I do that.
Yeah. I joked that I've
All right.
become like there's a fast food brand here in the United States called Kentucky Fried Chicken, and they have their founder has been dead for years, but he's Colonel Sanders, and he's just like the face on the sign now. And I joked a lot of times that I've become the Colonel Sanders of our business because I'm just the face on the sign, and I don't really do any of the work at this point. I also compare myself to Aladdin sometimes because like I'll come up with an idea and I'll just say, I wish that we had this on the site. And then it just happens so I feel like I'm just making a wish and they make it come true. And I don't mean that. I mean that as a compliment to how dedicated and like good the people that work with me are. But yeah, that's anyway, I don't know how I got on that, but that's how I look at it sometimes.
That's amazing. That's a great position to be in as an entrepreneur for sure. Like when you have a very dedicated and energetic team to do
Yeah.
things. Right. And what is your number one advice for your younger self, knowing all the information now?
If I had to start, I guess this is if you had to start over, what would you do different kind of thing? If I was to talk to me then, and was significantly younger, unfortunately, I think it would be to have a goal before you start. So a lot of times the goal for people to get into a business or being an entrepreneur is to make more money than last month. And there's value to that because you got to pay the bills and you got to, grow the business. But if you don't know where you're going, you don't know where you're going. And it's just going to be one short-term decision after the other. So you can call it a vision. I like to call it an end game because I'm a nerd and that's a comic book movie. But having an idea of what you want to achieve will make you more money, but it will also make your decisions easier. And it's just something a lot of people don't do as well as they should. And I think that once I found out once I decided what I wanted this to be, it's become a much better product and I've made a lot more money. So I think if I was to talk to me back then, it would be instead of just deciding to do affiliate marketing, figure out what you want to be in 5 years and 10 years, and then reverse engineer what it's going to take to get there. So that's what I would tell younger me. And that's what I would tell anybody that's starting out, or even like, you'd be surprised how many people are years into it and still have no idea where they're going. So I think that's kind of the answer to that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chris. I love this answer. Thank you again for joining the Aspiring CMO. I think many aspiring CMOs can learn from everything that you have shared with us today. And yeah, if people would like to reach out to you, how can they find
You
you?
can always find us on Legiit at legiit.com. You can find me and the rest of the team there, or you can find me on Facebook. I'm very, very active there and quick to respond and things like that. And so just search my name.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Awesome. I will share everything in the show notes, guys.
Okay.
So yeah. Thank you so much for
Thank you for having me. I purposely sought this out after I saw a couple of your interviews and had somebody ask me if I could get on. So I think you're doing a great job. So keep it up.